Good morning, everybody. I'm probably a week late with my recording, but that was more to do with it being about my well-being last week. I've been on holiday and didn't get back in time to do a recording. However, this week I'm really pleased to join you, and I've got 5 tips for you which are proven to improve your mental health and well-being. And you may well have heard of them. They're called the 5 ways to well-being. Lots of evidence behind them, proven to work. So we know that actually if we start to try and incorporate these into our everyday life, actually we'll start to feel a whole lot better. 5 things: being active, give, take notice, keep learning, and connect. Okay, so what do they actually mean, and what might they look like? And you're probably doing some of these already. But when we consciously start to incorporate them into our everyday lives, we will see a much bigger benefit to our mental health and well-being. So let's take Be Active first. Okay, so we know that 30 minutes of physical activity every day, brisk activity every day, is really good for our physical and mental health. What does brisk look like? Well, it's something that whatever activity you're doing needs to get your heart rate up. You need to be able to, if you're walking, walk fast, be able to talk, but not sing. I don't sing when I'm walking anyway. But we know that by incorporating physical activity into our everyday routine actually has a huge benefit to reducing some of our risk factors for heart disease, stroke, some cancers, and many other diseases. Give. And this is really interesting one, because at the moment, lots of our charitable organisations and lots of our community groups are really struggling, both to raise funds and to get volunteers. But one of the interesting facts about when you give and volunteer is actually it makes you feel good as well as the person or the organisation that you're contributing to. So it's a win-win for both of you. But you don't have to volunteer. You could actually make a decision that every week for the next month you might take an item of clothing or something that you no longer use down to a local charity shop. You may give your time in ways in which we're doing now, actually, giving our time and our expertise to others. And there's no fee involved, actually, but it does make you feel good to share your experience, to share your knowledge. So think about how you might give of yourself, of your time to others that will help them feel better, but also help you feel better. And the number one thing is don't forget to give to yourself, because actually you're just as important. So the third thing is take notice. This has become very much known in the mindfulness space now, but these 5 ways to wellbeing were developed in 2008, when perhaps mindfulness was not as understood as it is now. So taking notice, just being aware of the world around you, being in the present moment, appreciating what you've got now. If you go for a walk, just catch sight of the beautiful things that are around you. How often do you actually walk through a park and you hear birds singing, but you actually really don't take any notice of them? Actually stop in that moment and take notice of what's going on around you and appreciate what's around you. The fourth one, keep learning. And this doesn't have to be a formal course. It can be anything, any new skill. It could be reading a new book. It could be revisiting a skill or something you done when you were a lot younger. It might be a sporting activity. Maybe you used to play netball and you haven't played for a while and you'd like to get back into it. Or it might be just looking for some new recipes to try. But keeping learning new things actually keeps our brains very active as well. And finally, the last one is connect. And I think probably through the pandemic and lockdown and everything that went on around that time, I think we really realised just how much and how important connection is. Connecting to people, connecting to your families, to friends, to community and to work colleagues. And it's perhaps only when those things are taken away that you really appreciate the importance of them and making you feel good. But it's not just about connection with people, it might be about connecting with nature. And there's lots of evidence now that tells us the value and the benefits to our physical and mental well-being of spending 10 minutes a day in nature. Now that could be just in your own garden if you have one. It could be if you don't have access to green space of your own, it could be going to a local park. It could actually just be potted plants, but actually connecting with nature, seeing things change, the change in seasons, and appreciating nature actually is really, really good for our mental well-being. So connecting with people, but don't forget about connecting with nature. I use these 5 things regularly. In fact, they are just now a part of my everyday life. They're something I use a lot with clients. I may not actually use them in the way of 5 things and a list of them all, but they're certainly things that I would encourage people to do, to build into their everyday life, to help them feel good and help people around them as well. As I said before, you're probably already doing some of these things, but actually stop and think about how can you be more conscious of what you do. Could you keep a diary? I have a diary sheet for the 5 ways to wellbeing with some suggestions, and I'd be more than happy to share it with you if you want to get in touch with me, either direct message or on through the mothership, and I'll send you a copy of it. And just think about the things that you're doing now in relation to those 5 things, and think about what more you might want to do. How can you incorporate them and make them more conscious of how you're delivering against these things for yourself, and how actually you might want to include your family in it. So if it's around giving or if it's around being active, are there any other friends or family members that can come with you, that can do things with you and share that experience, and thereby connecting with others? They are, as I've said at the beginning, a proven way to improve health and well-being. Virtually everything I do with clients and for myself has an evidence base, a very strong evidence base, and that's true of the 5 ways to wellbeing. If you'd like to know any more about the research behind them, then again, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. So thank you very much for listening. Live, great, let me know. But if you don't, just drop me a message if there's any more information. Thanks, have a fab weekend.